Hey, I'm Duke on Twitch. If you want to support the channel and greensunzenith.com, you can find my Patreon, merch store, and singles store where you can buy singles through TCG Player or Card Hoarder in the video description. If you want to get in contact, you can also find all that info in the description below for things like donation deck lists or just wanting to reach out. Alright, let's get right into it.
Yo, hey team, welcome back to Dukes on Twitch. Back today with a donation deck list from patron BANT Maverick Joe. This is a BANT take on Mav featuring a new card, Nadu Winged Wisdom. Probably the card with the most amount of hype out of Modern Horizons 3. There's been a lot of cool versions online of things like Cephalid Breakfast or BANT Stoneblade playing Nadu with cards like Shuko, Field of the Dead. Yeah, some really cool lists. So that is pretty cool to see. This list isn't fully going hard into the Nadu build. We're just looking at pretty similar to the list we played last time. The one card I did take out was Unsettled Mariner because I did want to find room for the Once Upon a Times. With no real graveyard hate in the board, we really rely on the endurances, and I think the onces just pair really well with them for some of the more broken starts from the graveyard decks. Thrun is pretty cool to see in the board. There are more cards that can deal with it. Obviously, Dress Down is a big one, but like Triumph of St. Catherine out of some of the BANT 4-color decks, being a 5/5 is just quite tough for Thrun to get through. Uro, not just being a 6/6, but also the gain 3 when it attacks. So we'll see how Thrun goes. Mindbreak Trap, obviously for the fast combo decks. I find usually when there's a new meta game, combo comes out as just to kind of, while you're figuring out your deck, I'm just going to combo you out. Wrath of the Skies is a pretty interesting sideboard sweeper. So it's X and 2 white. You get X energy, and then you may pay any amount of energy, and you destroy each artifact, creature, and enchantment with mana value less than or equal to the amount of energy paid. So if you go white, X equals 0, you get rid of Urza Saga tokens and Urza Saga, maybe a Mox Diamond or a Mox Opal, things like that, which is pretty cool. And then at 1, not too bad either. Like potentially against Delver, getting rid of just Delvers and DRCs is good enough, but we'll see how that goes. Hey Junie, welcome. But yeah, the other card that I want to talk about was Scryb Ranger, which I added into the list as well, just because Scryb is really nice with Nadu being able to, activate it hopefully each turn. We'll see how that goes. And then, yeah, classic mums to protect it. We do have Karakas as well. Pretty keen just to see how the list performs as like a BANT shell. Prismatics as well, because you do want that extra removal, which is good. Yeah, Joe, the one thing I did cut was the Mariners just to find room for the onces, which couple well with the endurances if we don't have sideboard graveyard hate. Just because, yeah, I do think in new metas, I find a lot of like Reanimator and people just churning through leagues while other people are trying to build out their new lists. So hopefully it goes pretty cool. One of the big reasons for Mother of Runes over Giver of Runes is, although it is an X1, being able to protect itself is so good. And a lot of the times, if you're playing against decks with removal, they can just get rid of the Giver first. And then typically, even if you go to give protection to the creature they actually care about in response, they'll have a second piece removal, which means you lose both creatures. But in the case of Mum, it doesn't always. What did I cut for Scryb? That is a great... it's the third prismatic ending, just to keep the 2 split with the swords. But I do think Scryb is really good in this deck, especially with the 4 mums, the 4 nobles, and of course the Nadus as just a way to trigger it at instant speed, which is pretty cool. But yeah, and then I thought Tower, a lot of people are trying out the full Shuko builds with Nadu, so potentially Tower might come up against some of the Urza Saga builds of that deck. Also just a nice clean answer for things like Kaldra against TNT, or if we do see more Stoneblade decks. That should be, yeah, hopefully come in handy. The other thing is I think Price of Progress would be pretty good right now. Like probably out of blue-red Delver. But at the same time, against these BANT decks, they're also just not drawing, but putting a bunch of cards in hands. They probably have the forces ready for trying to get your opponent who's just gone wide with Nadu with Price of Progress. But that's always pretty interesting. All right, Larry Dyrud. Pretty sweet hand. The Dryad Arbor makes this pretty much a 6, but we have turn 1 acceleration into turn 2 Thalia. Potentially even turn 1 acceleration into turn 2 removal and Thalia. So pretty happy to keep this. The Canopy as a land here as well is quite nice. Just in case we draw another land, we can try to turn this into a actual spell. But yeah, I'm looking forward to being back on BANT. I think one thing I really want to figure out is, do you need to just go all in on Nadu if you are on this style of deck? Skip your draw step at the beginning of your end step. You may pay any amount of life. If you do draw that many cards, your maximum hand size is 5. If a card or token... Oh, they go down to 1. Interesting. Interesting. I haven't seen this deck go off at instant speed, so that's pretty cool. Manamorphose, potentially. Spirit Guides. What does it do? That's a lot of mana. Instant speed, maybe it wouldn't be Gut Shot. Well, now I'm really happy about the Mind Break traps, but at the same time, if they're drawing so many cards, I assume they also have, like, something there. Like, packs? Pact negation? Gut Shot would be pretty funny. I mean, if Gut Shot is the meta game, I'm all for it. Force of Vigor is your best card. Oh, nice. This is pretty sweet. That's pretty much just like get rid of the bad cards and hopefully draw into the other good cards. Full Pact for Chancellor. Wow. Wow. That is pretty funny. All right. Luckily, we do have both Force of Vigors and Traps and Teague. I think that's going to be it. I don't think the Rats... Rats are pretty interesting because they do destroy... Like, they could be. They do destroy the artifact lands, which is cool. Swords are an easy hit. Prismatics, Scryb Ranger, Brist. A lot of the just fair stuff. Mums, Nobles, Thalia, Ouphe. Who's Ramunap's a little bit dead. Maybe Doorkeeper is just worth it. Hey Pass, welcome. Trying to think, I assume they're a Chrome Mox deck. Maybe it's just this. Maybe it's just this. It's a trap hand, but it relies on the once to hit. But then to be fair as well, like, relying on trap itself isn't that great. And if they have Chancellor, it actually counters our land drop. So, like, worst case is... kind of like best case is potentially turn 1 Noble, but there's no, like, turn 2 Thalia, turn 2 Teague. So pretty happy to mulligan this. I mean, this is pretty much going to be bottom forest, go land, pass, hold up Wrath, but then also have trap potentially. I don't mind this, but it relies on two things. It relies on trap being good and it relies on Wrath being good, obviously. But it relies on them kind of going wide a little bit on their board and then passing to try to like play under a Thalia. The nice thing is that we do have the Windswept Heath, so that actually allows us to play trap around Chancellor. It allows us to end step get the Surveil land to potentially draw into a good creature. But relying on these two is pretty tough. Going to 5 is pretty tough as well. So I don't mind keeping bottom of the forest. They don't do anything, so I think we just play the Windswept Heath and pass. Hey Panda, welcome. We are Naduing, but I feel like maybe in this matchup we won't get to the stage where we get to Nadu. But you never know. Yeah, Cardboard Live sadly is not up to date. Soon, hopefully. They're usually pretty good. One spell, 2 spell, 3 spell. Okay. Well, the trap kind of did its job. It's kind of a 3-for-1, which is nice. Get the archive. See, a 2-mana hate bear would be perfect. And endurance is not great. It is pressure, but that's not good enough, I don't think. Well, that's not great either. Now I feel a little bit naked. Okay. I think we... Oh, okay. Now it's pretty nice. I think here it's Green Suns for Collector Ouphe. Just because Gadok turns off the Wraith unless we Karakas the Teak, and it also turns off other Green Sun Zeniths. Mariner would be good, but we would have to have the once in hand for us to think it would be the Mariner. Okay. Probably happy just to get Dryad Arbor with this Misty. Increase the clock. We did have it in the opener, but that was a no-lander. Okay. That's a lot better. I'm not going to play the Karakas until I allow it. I don't think they have counter magic, but at least this changes it to a 3-turn clock, which is nice. But yeah, sorry, what I meant by the Once Upon a Time and Mariner was that what we can do is think about when we draw Once Upon a Time, if that was a copy of Mariner, would that be better for us or worse for us? Ooh. That's pretty sweet because we can like, we can play it, and then if they do nothing, we can just Karakas it, end step, pretty much draw a card, untap, replay the Nadu potentially. I don't think things change. My only thought is, one small thing we did see there was they wanted to play out the Lotus Petal, which makes me think that potentially Prismatic Ending is okay there. Yeah, maybe like obviously a pretty great board for us when they're on 2 mana or 1 mana because the pedal sent off. So maybe they just didn't think that they had enough time to draw into the removal that they needed to go off. Hey, Genie. We are up a hill, but hopefully we'll see how that goes. Or enough life for Necro. Very true, yeah. I think it's just that. I wouldn't mind Deafening Silence, just because it comes in against a lot of matchups, which is nice. We're definitely keeping this because it's turn 1 Dryad Arbor, turn 2 Ouphe and Wasteland with Force backup. I don't think it gets much better. Yeah, I think playing to the board is nice as well, especially if these combo decks start to pick up things like Thoughtseize. That can be a little bit tricky. And Deafening Silence is kind of like a meddling mage for a lot of their spells, especially the rituals. White of the Reliquary is very cool. I'm looking forward to seeing Matt Soul hopefully put together a list. Now this is kind of like a tough one because obviously the Vault could be Wastelanded here, but we also just have Trop into Green Suns and then next turn play Ouphe or Wasteland at worst case. Like, I don't think we need to Wasteland here. Like, I think we're just going to go for Green Suns. Yeah, it's very true. Having turn 0 interaction in trap is really good, but it can be a little bit awkward at times where your opponent knows about it. Especially Doomsday. Doomsday specifically, where they can kind of play around it a little bit. Beseech. That's pretty good. Pretty happy to just get rid of the knight here. This means we don't need to draw into a white source. Yeah, very fortunate. Especially to have these backup as a just in case. Like they have 3 cards. It could be land, ritual into vault or into Necro. Deck looks like a blast. Nice. Very cool. But yeah, I think that really shows, like, I would say it's getting pretty close between if Force of Vigor or Endurance is the Force of Will of green. And I think for a long while, Endurance has been the Force of Will for green. But if this deck does start showing up a lot more, and even I feel like there's more room for affinity in the format, especially with the new 3-drop that creates a construct for every CMC 3 or greater artifact you cast. Force of Vigor is obviously fantastic there as well. Yeah, the mulligan just worked out really well because it was trap, the sweeper that we didn't cast, and then lands, but the trap definitely bought us the time that we needed. I wasn't sure if your deck runs Thoughtseize. Hey Dan Rowe, welcome. Hope you're well. Hopefully see you at Legacy again sometime soon. Just got some new cards for the Legacy decks. Like Harvester of Mystery, I think it's called. That card's sweet, especially in like a shadow style list. Yeah, it's really tough because if you give me the time, if you take the time to play around trap, then potentially I draw into something like Thalia or Teague or Ouphe. That it definitely makes sense to go off as soon as possible because I wouldn't say every Maverick deck out there is playing traps. Tony has a video on it? Okay, cool. Tony has definitely an itch to find things to break, which I think is a sign of a great player. Someone who can easily see something. Okay, I know how to build around this. That's a sweet avatar. This hand is pretty strong. Mana's really good. We have removal and acceleration once if we really need it. That's fair. Is there room for like Thoughtseize? Wasteland's pretty interesting here. I don't mind resetting the game and just doing this in their upkeep. Okay, or after the brainstorm. Underground Sea. Okay, Grixis. Doesn't tell us too much. Dryad Arbor's not great. We're gonna play the Misty. I guess I could have also onced for another Wasteland. I'm playing a little bit around days here. Maybe that isn't needed. Yeah, I don't think I really care about days. But I do want to find a threat from this and not just keep drawing. Like, obviously, I don't really want to draw any more land. But opponent's definitely thinking about this. Slower Necro, that's true. I think that you could say that's quite similar to Turbo Depths and like Slow Depths, which you don't see too much Slow Depths anymore. If you're playing slow, you kind of just play the green-white version. But when you were going off end step, I was like, okay, we got to watch this. I think I just like the Nadu here, in all honesty. And then probably like... I'm not too scared of... Let's have a quick think. I think it's probable that they go Bowmaster next turn. Push into Wasteland would be a little bit annoying, but not the worst. I don't mind just getting a Forest here. The Forest turns off Wasteland and Swords next turn, but I don't think we'll need to Wasteland and Swords. Tamiyo. Okay. Unholy Heat. Cool. Yeah. Not a big fan of that. But I am pretty happy here just to go and get the planes. It's a little bit tricky knowing that I have Karakas in the deck, but obviously want to deal with this before it comes a Planeswalker, which, you know, a Brainstorm turns this on. You ultimated Tamiyo in the 90s MTG Webcam League. Very cool. Draw cards equal to half the number of cards in your library rounded down. You may get an emblem with you have no maximum hand size. Nice. It's pretty good. All right, planes. Feels really bad. Like, we don't really have a great answer to Murktide at the moment. But I also like just trying to change as a player and just play the board. I believe we have a snow-covered forest, yeah, because I was going to play Field of the Dead, but I think you have to kind of go, you have to change the build quite a lot. So upkeep. Honestly, I could have gone upkeep instead of draw step, just in case they draw into the days. Okay. They get a clue. Murktide. Makes me happy to have the prismatic endings. I guess we go with Wizard. Ooh. But now they have a pretty good clock. Pond is one card. This is one card. Will they target the Nadu? Ah, it's not, it doesn't even target. Rough. Alright, they have 3 cards. Ramunap doesn't do a whole lot here. I think it's Ramunap back the Windswept and then try to get a Surveil. Which isn't great because they actually haven't even used a Bolt yet. Yeah, maybe I should have actually just tried to surveil main phase and then see if I could get out of this. If I had the, yeah, if I had the Dryad Arbor in play, tough. It grows the Murktide. Yikes. I mean, we're not gaining life anytime soon, so I think like we can't just go to 2, especially against a deck with so many outs to that. It has to be like Scryb Ranger, make them use the Bolt. Too slow. I mean, the Bolt not coming to the face is pretty huge because now we draw to like swords. Then we play the Dryad Arbor for turn. Instant land currently. They chose not to shuffle. We have a Delver. We have the parts. The rats are kind of nice because they get rid of that. I like the parts and the rats, I think. Liberator, Collector Ouphe. I don't mind going down on a knight. Bristly's cool. But it might, it's really tough. I think that a lot of the time, Bristly is just, it comes down after the damage has been done. I don't mind this. Pretty happy to keep once first into Manadork, into turn 2 Nadu. That'd be pretty sweet. I feel like 6 is a build around card. But I don't mind it. Okay, seeing those swords there, I'm pretty happy to take the drop, play the Windswept, and then go for probably the Surveil land. Okay. I have no idea what the song is, but it's hilarious. All right. Probably, what are we binning here? I would bin another land. And Ooze with our current mana isn't great either. Like, what's our plan here? It's untap, swords this, untap, cave into Nadu. At that stage, we'll have one green source. Yeah. Endurance. Nice. Play the Trop this turn just in case we want to Endurance the following turn. That's true. In that case, what did we have? We had land. I would probably rather the Mariners, but the Onces are nice. If they go Tamiyo, land, Brainstorm, they get the Planeswalker straight away, right? That's pretty insane. Psychic Frog, okay. That is fine. So for players who don't know what this is, whenever it deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, draw a card, discard a card, put a possible counter on it, exile 3 cards from your graveyard, it gains flying until end of turn. So here I'm happy just to get down. They don't cross over with anything, unfortunately, but I do like just getting the Nadu into play. And I think the role of the Once is to find the extra green source for the Endurances. I wonder how many of each sort of threat they play. Because it seems like this version of the deck is pretty high on threats. Probably no Delver, but Murktide, DRC, Frog, Tamiyo. Discard's pretty interesting with Murktide especially. Really need a piece for removal. Tough. We're probably not blocking with Nadu here, so pretty happy to attack. I feel like the cave would be the 4th Wasteland, so there's not too much of a difference of the cave and another land. Don't want to block here either. But yeah, maybe I just had a bit of tunnel vision in the Nadu. Even though we don't really have anything going on, maybe the endurance was better. Yeah, crazy. Yeah, the reason I went with the blue-white was to have a Tundra in the deck. But not have a Tundra, that makes sense. So like have a Tundra with upside, because Tundra by itself isn't that great of a land in this sort of build, but to have the Surveil isn't too bad. But in this sort of spot, especially with the Cavern, maybe we just don't have that luxury. Maybe it should just be a white. That would have been pretty sweet to hit off the Unholy Heat. I think now it's once into a green source and then play the Noble. There's one sword, which kind of makes me want to fetch again. Drop. Noble. Yeah, really uphill battle, especially with this going on. Like, I feel like you might even just need the full 4 Prismatics if a deck like this becomes more popular. Having a lot more removal in the deck. Yeah. I don't think we have a way out, honestly. Like, Green Suns, potentially, but like, yeah. Really tough. But yeah, I think if they get like more threats, then there's definitely a need for more removal. Like Tamio and Frog, not even dying to Bowmaster is pretty tough. So you can't really rely on them from like an Abzan perspective. Yeah, we had like endurance, pitch, endurance, but that's not. I don't think that's putting ourselves in a winning line, especially when they had the bolt as well. Pretty happy to keep this. Acceleration, interaction, something unfair. But yeah, but like potentially saving ourselves or saving the Nadu. It draws you a card, so you can kind of say that the endurance pitch isn't too bad. Okay. Borrower. They didn't have a daze last time. They also didn't take out the Noble. I think I'm happy here just to play the Thalia and the Noble Hierarch. Playing the Thalia first. I'm gonna force it. Okay. This feels like frog. Okay. Thankfully, you don't really care about that because of the Scryb Ranger. They didn't have days last turn, so I feel like we get to play Ramunap and then get back the Karakas. 1, 2. Untap this, return this. 1, 2. 1, 2. Untap this, return this. Play this. 1, 2, 3. I could also go Scryb Ranger and Ramunap. Yep, I don't mind playing the Ramunap into a daze, which they didn't have last turn. Get back the Karakas. Pass. We do take a hit from the frog, but that's more than fine. I guess we could also make them discard 2 cards. Yeah. They have 3 cards in hand. Yeah, I don't mind that. Also, it stops them from drawing a card. So it kind of takes them off a few more. And even worst case, if they have a Murktide, we have the Scryb. Okay. They have 1 card left. I think here we like the Surveil land. And this. And then I don't want to attack here, I just want to hold up the Scryb Ranger. And also the Surveil land. I guess, yeah, the Surveil land also being, like, not being a forest means we can't get the little engine going with Scryb Ranger, which is pretty tough. All right. There's 1 card we don't want them to find. Really want to see like a quick shuffle here. Okay, good. It was a shuffle. Okay, it's blue. Scryb. Fetch for archive. Really want to find endurance Thalia. I think Thalia is actually decent here. Just attacks them that little bit. I think it's better than a random card. It stops them from like cantrip into reanimate. It also means they have to have land and ancient. Land and animate dead. And here we can actually just drop our hand as well. Atraxa, I don't really mind. It's probably the Archon we care about the most. I think you would just like get rid of the Ouphe. Sometimes you just draw it up. They can't force because we have Thalia. Four-turn clock. Actually a 3-turn clock or a 4-turn clock in the air. But yeah, the more I think about it, the more I probably want to have this as a forest, just because of Scryb Ranger. They chose to shuffle. Once also does it. Nadu's pretty sweet here. Oh, Nadu's actually insane because we get to do some pretty cool shenanigans. All right. This is my board right now. We've got like 2 a turns, but we also have Karakas, so we get to go Scryb Ranger. Untap this, return this, trigger. Nice. We can also attack with Thalia and then replay. Which isn't great if they have days. No, we actually have the mana for it. There's the endurance. That's exactly what we wanted. And we have the green card to pitch as well. Play the forest. There goes force, that's fine. Oh, and now we just have upkeep, endurance, and draw. Nice, because here we get to go untap this, return this, draw a card, or not even draw a card, just do the Nadu thing. Oh, it's a cavern. Oh, we even get to like name in on an endurance. Elemental. And then just because of Murktide, I will endurance now. That's pretty cool. That is very cool. I like the parts. It's really all I like. So I think it's going to be Collector Ouphe out. I don't mind Liberator because of Animate Dead. Like, is Thrun better than another threat? I don't mind trying it out. Get rid of a knight. It might just be... Yeah, I do like that knight costs 3. I guess if we're playing around days, like knights are 4-drop. But... tricky one. I think it might just still be a knight. I do like still having Ramunap. Especially if they're on Wasteland. But this is probably a matchup where I don't mind the onces. Like we don't have a green source here, but we do have the onces to find it, which I'm pretty happy with. I will use a grief, once. There is a world where they see that we don't have a green source, take a once and then counter the other one. That's true, because you can't Karakas your own Thrun. Vexing Baubles, yeah, Vexing Baubles pretty cool. Take the Green Suns. Okay. Looking for swords and looking for... Path. This is actually another good spot where the green Surveil land would be good, because we want to get green off this, but having a Surveil here would be pretty sweet. Cradle's pretty loose. They're on the one land. It didn't even cycle a troll. I think you were just going to get Trop. Cast the once. Thalia is actually decent here. Oh, Nadu. We can't Nadu because of our mana. We can Nadu potentially next turn. So they do get a hit here. Then it's back to us. Oh, that's pretty sweet. We get to go... play Mum, play Cradle, play Nadu, and then just hold back because we get to double block, but then the first strike of Thalia finishes off the grief. Wow. Like, I think in this position, because they didn't play another land, I would Wasteland, target my own Wasteland to trigger the Nadu, just to really make sure I can draw into a threat so we can hold some things back. But yeah, like, reanimate grief isn't always the greatest thing to do. But that's a tricky one on one land. Maybe they just thought that the time they would gain with grief would allow them to draw into the lands. Mum does also trigger Nadu, which is cool. I got to do something silly because of Bauble against blue-black Scaminator. That's Vexing Bauble. I had Bauble 3 mana and Volras's Stronghold in play, Endurance and Knight in hand, so they couldn't evoke Grief. They had to Dark Ritual it. Made me discard Endurance. I passed back, they went Entomb, Reanimate. I Volrath Endurance to top, cracked Bauble to draw it, and could pitch it. Very cool. Very, very cool. Look, I don't mind this because of the once. We do have turn 2 Endurance off a Dryad Arbor. We're going to keep. Opponent keeps 7. Volk. Okay. I think we're going to go Forest into once. Let's see. Okay. I don't mind the other fetch because it goes Forest into basic, Plains into blue source, potentially. I think best case here is they attack with their DRC and we get a trade with the Dryad Arbor. Okay. They put a bolt in the bin, which makes me think they already have a bolt. Which makes me next turn just want a Green Suns for a Noble Hierarch and then pass with Dryad Arbor open. But now they keep. No attacks. Okay. Still pretty happy here to get that basic Plains out of the deck. And then use Forest Plains to Green Suns for Dryad Arbor, hold up. Sorry, Green Suns for Noble Hierarch, hold up the Dryad Arbor. Opponent having a moment. Okay. Plains. Green Suns. Noble pass. Okay. But do they attack? They don't attack. Wow, that's so much time for us, which is so nice to have. They have 4 cards. Honestly, here I'm pretty happy just to play Trop into Nadu. I don't have to play the Cradle just yet. I could also play Cradle. We currently have 4 mana, 6 mana with Cradle, but if we play Nadu and don't use the Cradle, we actually have Endurance open with a spare mana, which is pretty absurd. So we go Cradle, which is currently 2. And then if we tap like this, we'll have 3 creatures plus Dryad Arbor. But the way they've played this so far, I feel like they have a Force Blue card. They put away the Bolt, which is interesting. Now they have 2 cards left. DRCs are still 1/1s. They have 2 cards left. I think at this stage I'm not happy to throw the Endurance into a Daze, because it's all we really have. Ooh. Well, now I'm actually pretty open to it, because they have 1 card left. And I feel like if we don't Endurance now, then they're just going to run away with the game. Float 3. The Bolt resolves. We play the Endurance. And there's the Daze. Tough. If we get a turn, I was going to say Green Suns for Nadu here. Actually, it's probably just Green Suns for another Endurance. Right is cool. I think Matt Sol will probably come out with a list that I want to look at, because it is very cool. I think Mark actually tested it out in a version he 5-0'd with today as just a 1 of, maybe a 2 of, to see it. But it looked really sweet. Brainstorm. I mean, if they hit like sorcery creature here, there's creature. They hit sorcery, they're back on board. It was 1 of? Okay, cool. So they are playing the frog. Paid actor in round 4. Bauble. It's a lot of looks. Wow, no attacks. I thought they would have gone like a little wide there and just gone like attack for 6. Don't allow us to draw here. That's a Surveil. So I will play the Windswept. But now it just feels so, yeah, open to a lot. Attack with all. Block 1. Murktide. Okay. I mean, if we get to untap with the mum, that's something, right? And now we do get a Surveil. Graveyard. Ooh, okay. I think it's Nadu here. I think it's Nadu. Like, the other world is another endurance, but that's not great. I think Nadu puts us in a position where we can potentially go a little bit wide. They have one card as well, so... yeah. I'm going to hold this as an unknown. I think that's better. Scary though. 1, 2, 3, 4. So Ooze could have become a 6/6. Go to yeah, but we need the extra flyer, I believe. So we'll make the DRC a 3/3. So Bolt does it here. We can't really play around Bolt. Endurance on Murktide, Nadu on Dragon Rage Channeler. And then use, I guess we can use the mum to draw a card. Wasteland's fine. Interesting. Interesting. So they have 0 cards. They have to attack with everything. But now we have full information. So we get to go block here, block here. Before damage. Oh no, I'm meant to target the endurance, didn't I? No! We'll draw swords, that's fine. We don't. Tough. That's a misclick. Hopefully that might come back to get us. Yeah. That's a tough one. We can draw a card. We can target, draw Green Suns. Another mum. Not good enough. And now we're just dead in the air. Yeah, that's really tough. But that's on me. Really tough spot if I do, like, survive that turn as well. But that is fine. Bill, Liberator. Probably a knight. Yeah, that's all good. We targeted Nadu to get protected from DRC, which is a 3/3 against a 3/4 instead of Endurance against a 6/6 Murktide. We stabilize, but a little bit. We stabilize because we get to... Thank you, Casey. I do need some water. Because the Endurance then just blocks the Delver, and then we have the Nadu plus Mum to protect from the Murktide. But honestly, just on me. Just got to think a little bit before my plays. This is a pretty nice hand, honestly. Great mana, great removal, mana acceleration, everything you want. Alright. Thalia would be pretty sweet with this hand. Mum, Noble Ooze. Okay. I kind of like the Mum. The Ooze without anything in the bin isn't great. Honestly, it was going turn 1 Mum. If they want to spend their turn bolting, that's fine. Savannah means the following turn, if we draw a Wasteland, we can Noble and Waste. Okay, that's pretty cool. I am going to play around days here just a little bit. Hey JJ, thanks for the follow. Hope you're well. Let me know where you're from. If you play Legacy, what you're playing Legacy. There is a small downside here that we don't get to play the Nadu around days unless we draw a land, but I felt like they would have played a creature this turn, so we get to untap, play a removal around days, maybe attack, play this. Okay. This is fine. Hit this first. And then probably just looking for a land on top, honestly. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, I do like that Mum, like just in case they're playing Bowmaster, having the turn 1 Mum is really nice. They have 4 cards. All right. All right, in we go. This is a really awkward spot that comes up a lot actually, where giving them a land off path can be pretty brutal. So even though we have path here, I'm pretty happy just to try to swords this Murktide. Swords the Murktide this turn, and the next turn if we draw a land at worst case, we get to play a Green Suns for probably just Nadu. Maybe Endurance. See how it works out. But with no threat in play on their end, I'm not in that big of a rush. It is a land. It's not the one I really want. One thing you never really see these days is like End the Festivities or Pyroclasm. See a lot more like Bolt, Unholy Heat, bounce effects. Okay. I still think it's Nadu. I think Nadu's pretty cool here. I feel like if we get Endurance, it's great. We have the path for a Murktide. I feel like either are great, but I do just want to see more of Nadu. I'm not going to attack here either, just in case. I don't want to path the DRC just yet. Like at 19 life, I wouldn't say it's the biggest threat. Like I don't want to path the DRC and then them have a Murktide down, but I guess if I was scared of that and wanted to do that, I'd get the Endurance to turn off Murktide as well. But yeah, just in case I want to get rid of my white mana, having the Nadu is pretty sweet. Okay, well now we're just going to do shenanigans. Yeah. Okay. We're just going to run this back. Yeah. But you can see how good, like, the classic 2 removal spells, 3 land, and 2 of something else is always pretty good. We haven't seen an island yet, so potentially they're not running it if they're on Grixis. I would assume they have one, but that's just an assumption. Hey, Edho. MH3 is going well, so we're just playing Nadu. What else did I test? I did test, as part of the program last week, a Turbo Depths build. Maybe it's not here. No, it was on the other account. I did play a version of Depths that ran the new Eldrazi that when it is cast, you can remove any number of counters on a permanent, which of course Dark Depths has 10 on them. And then your next spell is cheaper by X, where X is the amount of counters removed. But the issue with that is that I've been trying to play Slumbering Megasloth in Legacy Turbo, but with both like Hexmage and Thespian Stage trying to rely on Dark Depths, and then also your other beat relying on Dark Depths, it's a single point of failure, and I don't think that's a great way to play. Removal's pretty sweet here. It's pretty happy to keep and just draw into lands. Hey Boyd, welcome. Hope you're well. As I talk about Depths, of course. Yes. Yeah, I think Turbo Depths is pretty cool. I think the big thing is like, you got to be very quick, or else you might as well, be playing. You might as well be playing like a green-white kind of build, but I do really like it. We just want mana here, and we're just going to Prismatic off a Savannah. Get this off the table as soon as possible. Sure. But yeah, I haven't seen a turbo list do well at like a challenge or like premier event level. Graph Cage is fine. Graph Cage is the reason that I do like Pick Your Poison in some lists, because you don't want to keep in like Outland Liberator for this matchup, but you do want to have outs to that. So potentially now I do just want to sword this and then Prismatic ending the Graph Digger's Cage, but currently we aren't really worrying about the Graph Cage, but potentially. So I think the world here is actually just swords the DRC, keep the Prismatic, fetch for the other Savannah, and play the Mum. Hey Gary, welcome. Hope you're well. But yeah, if you like Turbo Depths, definitely check out Crucible of Words on YouTube. Has a lot of really good legacy content. Ooh, just the one land. Just the one land from them. You know what? If they have a daze, they can have the daze. I'm happy to play the Nadu into it if they're on one land here. Also keeps them off off Murktide for a little bit. Cavern's pretty sweet here. We get to name Elemental. And just because of... I think here we do just want a Prismatic Ending, the Graph Cage, get it away, and then just hold up the Endurance. I kind of like the mind games of Cavern of Souls as well. Like, if we didn't have the Endurance and we played it, does our opponent still attack here or not? They do attack. Maybe they have Unholy Heat and they want to try to turn it on. No. Or they just want to trade DRC and a Bolt for the Endurance, which I'm pretty happy with. Any sort of 2-for-1 we can get here, I'm happy with. Yeah. Misty is the Surveil land, which is nice. So that isn't a dead draw per se. Delve is fine. All right, deck. I was gonna say the one thing here is that we don't have mana for Ooze. That's great, but I don't mind it. Put it on top. They have 2 cards. I think what we'll do here is we'll play the Ooze, but we won't eat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so we can play around Bolt a little bit here, which is nice. If we get to untap with another green source. So they're going to fetch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think if they have a Murktide, I'm okay with that because of the Ooze. Because they'll have to tap out. Pond is okay. But yeah, just another spot where, you know, this being the green Surveil land would have come up. But yeah, the main thing here is that if they have a Bolt, if we go to eat end step, they then do that. Eat end step to try to make it a 3/3, they then Bolt, then we only have 1 mana left over to build it up. But if we untap, we have an extra mana to go up to 3 and then up to 4 again. And at least for a Murktide, they're tapping out here. And down to 1 card. So now I think the Ooze might just take over the game. Alright, let's eat Mum. No basic. And let's eat Nadu. We don't have recursion other than Ramunap, so it's good to know about. That's actually a great draw because like that's what we can do with this mana. Eat Endurance. I don't believe there's any more, but we can eat their land. and then pass. Or at least attack and then pass. So like if it's a counterspell, it's not great. Psychotog's interesting. Nice. I think here we're just gonna go for happy to attack with the ooze first. I can daze here. So potentially I just want another 2-drop. Like a Scryb Ranger. Honestly, if they have the daze, I don't really care. It's one less card that they can put into the frog. I guess they get to return the land. No, nice. I mean, Knight's also just a massive threat, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. It'd be a 6/6. Yeah, I don't think it really matters. Very cool. Yeah, the Prismatic's actually showing up really well in this league, especially against Delver with all their threats, which is pretty cool. But yeah, the Cavern's been nice, but there's obviously like there definitely is an argument for a forest or a plains with Knight and Scryb Ranger in the deck. And like, do we have the luxury of Cavern? But it has been pretty cool as just a tutorable effect. Has it been 3 Delvers now? Pretty much. Grixis? Grixis. And I forgot what this one was. Chat, help me out. Obviously like Storm. And then I think it's just been Delver. Ah, no, it was the blue-black version. Like a Scaminator. Teamer with Tamiyo, there we go. Teamer, Grixis, and blue-black Scam. Right. On the play, a little bit awkward with like Dryad Arbor and you kind of wanting to find a land off the once, but I don't mind it with the removal we have. Okay, I think we're just getting the other land here. Passing with swords open, potentially prismatic ending. Uh-oh. Surely this doesn't mean anything good for us. Ah, okay. Well, now we can surveil. This card's pretty sweet because it also pitches to force, I believe? Or is it a land on front? I assume you can't pitch to force because of that. Come on, Thalia. That can go in the graveyard. Thalia, Wasteland. Not land. The land side is the back side. Ah, interesting. Okay. That's pretty cool. I don't mind just playing or trying to play Knight here. Which will be a 6/6. And then we have Endurance still open. But they have like a Sprite Dragon emote. Is it colors? Please be a creature deck. Okay, well that kind of says that it's not. Ancient Tomb. Oh, this could just be show and tell. Sneak. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we'll go to 2. Good to see more of the deck. So it is just a blue-red sneak. Tricky. This will be tricky. I don't mind the forces and like the Teague somewhat. The ooze can come out. Some amount of endurances, if not all. Bristly. I don't mind the paths over swords, as we are just wanting to win through combat. Like, is hard casting Mindbreak Trap a thing? I think they're honestly better than anything else. Like, the mums aren't great. Doorkeeper Thrall does stop a few creatures. I think Ouphe is worth it. Liberator's worth it. Nadu's kind of cool because he could go wide. Prismatics I could see coming out. So let's try this out. Potentially. The tough part is we don't have a great Green Suns target. Like, unless they want to hard cast Sneak. But this is tricky if we don't draw into a land off the top. Because then we just have 2 mana. Like, hold up Doorkeeper Thrall. I think there's one with like a Thalia hand. This is a bit better, but it doesn't have a green source. But I actually don't mind it because it has the force. Bottom and Noble. So we have force and then play the archive first. Mum's a little bit too late to the party. Sneak attack. Wow, they're going to ponder off a Lotus Petal. Does that mean they're really close to going off? Another petal. Hey B-Bod, welcome. Man, I don't think I need to trade the force here. Swords isn't too bad. I think we're still just playing Wasteland here, and then if they show and tell, we have Doorkeeper Thrall in response, and then play Karakas. Magus. That's going to be fine. Now we get to Wasteland their Volk. A green source would be pretty sweet here. Another Wasteland. Okay. Well, pretty much resetting. Play the Wasteland this turn. Send it back. They might even just pass. Okay. Alright, we got a threat. Trap. Look, we're pretty close. Right? If we draw a fetch, I'm almost in a world where I don't want to flute. Interesting. I assume that's going to name Karakas. Which is fine because we have the Force of Vigor. But I'm happy to take them off the tomb here just in case they name Karakas. Oh, is it as? Okay, so it doesn't actually get hit by the Doorkeeper Thrall, which is pretty interesting. Yeah, flute is pretty sweet. There was actually a sweet line that Eli had. So this was pretty sweet. So his opponent cast Sneak Attack, and he had the Disruptor Flute, which obviously has Flash, and he has the Skirk Prospector to get rid of 2 tokens for 2 red to cast the Flute in response, and then also a backup just in case with the Blast for like a Force of Vigor, which is pretty sweet. Knight of the Reliquary. Interesting. All right. I also should have cast the Noble pre-combat, so hopefully we don't go down by 1 life. A little bit. Yeah, definitely still thinking about that tweet. Alright, we just have 1 turn where we got to hold up. Okay. I mean, Thalia is pretty sweet here as well. Thalia is a little bit tricky with... I still think it's worth playing the Thalia. Because it means they have to have, like, Ancient Tomb into Show and Tell. And it also increases the clock. Alright. Wow. Interesting. Okay. Ooh. I think we're just running this back. I honestly wouldn't mind the bill as just a way to potentially make use of, if we do already have Teague and we want like another way to go wide a little bit. Maybe not. I actually think Mum, especially, it's tough knowing they have the land that bounces, but in saying that, the spell side of the land is blue, so we can get protection, unlike Otawara, which is irrelevant. All right. Really want some sort of hate bear in the opener. Not really doing it. That's very cool. Yeah, the flute seems like it has a lot of utility. No Lavinia in this list. I think this is just a little bit too slow. If the mum was a mana accelerant and we had like a turn 2 knight, that's pretty sweet, but... Okay, it's a 1-lander, but we get to put back a Noble. And then we just have like a classic Mav hand. Like this could be from 2011. Chose to not shuffle. Okay. Once here into Wasteland would be cool, or just the Wasteland just to reset a little bit. I don't mind that either. Does mean like Tomb, Lotus Petal, Magus is rough, but I think we're pretty happy. Thrall. Okay. So we do know about Magus, but potentially going for basic forest here just makes our mana just a little bit weak. Savannah into Noble. Yeah. They have Magus, they have Magus. If they go show and tell here, it's probably just Knight, because at least that leads to... Oh, okay. I was going to say because Knight leads to Karakas in our turn. Hopefully this is just like another Ponder. No. Okay. Okay. So next turn the Scryb is free. For don't draw land. Play Scryb. Untap this, return this. Play this. And then I think here we're just holding up the Doorkeeper. Yeah. I guess we could play the Mum. And then we get to float a mana, return, untap, play Doorkeeper. I don't mind that. And then if we draw a land, we play the Knight. But if we don't draw a land, we don't get Knight in play. No, I think it is just hold up Doorkeeper and then play Knight next turn. Knowing that we have, hopefully, 2 mana here and 1 mana here. Or 1 mana here, actually 4 mana next turn. So in response to show and tell, play Doorkeeper. And then just hope it's not Sneak. But with the mana open, pretty much the same. Yeah. Tough. Not too much we can do there. But really interesting to actually get over Storm in game 1, or round 1 I should say. But yeah, I think for like how the deck performed, especially against Delver, like 3-0 against Delver is always nice. And then show and tell is definitely one of those more challenging matchups that don't care about too much. Probably the biggest thing here was the archive not being a green source, and should probably be a hedge maze, I believe it's called. The Nadus were pretty sweet. The issue is like, Nadu's cool, but I feel like you really just want to build into it with obviously Shuko and Field, which this deck can definitely do. You can run Like instead of the cavern, and probably instead of like a fetch and something else, you could run like a field. You could change up your fetch lands, play some sagas, maybe even play like a Stoneforge package, which has Shuko in it, and then just have that kind of I win button with Nadu. Because it feels... It can be tough. It's kind of like playing a deck with just Deathspin Stage with nothing else. It's probably a bad comparison, but I feel like Nadu could easily be built around in this deck without sacrificing too much of like the Maverick style of the deck. It doesn't have to be like a Cephalid deck or a Stoneblade deck. You can definitely keep the Maverick appeal. Yeah, like the deck was pretty cool. The removal was sweet. The extra prismatics, especially against Delver, helped. The Bristly Bill is cool, but I feel like especially if like maybe it's... I was going to say like Karakas could be seeing more play if people are playing Nadu, but obviously Karakas isn't the greatest answer to Nadu. So having like another legendary creature in the deck isn't that great. This does allow you to build up your creatures, especially your X ones, away from things like Bowmaster, or make your creatures like Knight bigger after pre-board, where your opponent might have like a post-board Leyline or some sort of graveyard effect. But I don't know if it does enough for the matchups where we really care about it. Like this deck does have a lot of X1s, but there's only so many Bowmasters your opponents will find that I could see like the Bristly even becoming an extra prismatic potentially. And yeah, potentially moving towards the Shuko route, because it is a very easy card to add in. But there are some pretty cool lists out there, like Cephalid versions that aren't actually playing Cephalid and just playing Nomads in core. So they don't actually go into it. The tower didn't come up, but I have been seeing a bit of D&T online recently. I think the last 2 leagues we played against D&T at least once. The Wrath of the Skies didn't come up too much. The traps are good in different circumstances, but I think having some amount of Deafening Silence in the list would be nice, especially if more people are going to play the 3-mana Necro from MH3. Ouphe was good, Urza is good. Yeah, like only 2 Nadus, which I think is fine. I think like having 1 copy with Green Suns is great, but I really want to see it and get more testing with it, so the second one was pretty sweet. There probably was a situation where Renegade Rallier might have come up over Excavator, but I think for now it was pretty decent. But yeah, again, like Cavern, the big one, especially with Scryb Ranger, like having some sort of, maybe the upside of Cavern isn't worth the downside of it not straight being part of like the Scryb Ranger or Knight package. But it was cool. Like we have Nobles humans, Mother humans, Thalia's humans, Knights are humans, Wizards, Fairy. Yeah, there's not much else, but actually Liberator, human, nice. But yeah, I think BANT going forward, potentially like a BANT Blade, like Maverick style, this would be pretty sweet. Especially with Nadu. Like I think in those builds you kind of want to have the extra 2 Nadu and then just go all in. But maybe I'll play that in the coming weeks and see how it goes. But I think there's gonna be a lot of... I was actually surprised not to run into Nadu tonight. That was quite surprising. But hey, that's me. A huge thank you to you all for coming and watching. I'm gonna see who else is streaming and send you off there. I'll be back probably Sunday evening for a stream. I have a list from Ravenous Panda for hitting 100k Twitch points, which is pretty sweet. We're going to see how that plays out. But until then, I am going to send you off to... Yeah, there were more humans in the version that you sent me with the Mariners for sure. Which obviously makes use for the Cavern, but I do like 1. I think 2 can be a little bit awkward when you do also have removal that you want to be casting off your lands, but I think the 1 Cavern was pretty sweet tonight against a lot of the decks we played against. But yeah, I'll send you that all in Writing Joe and get to a 2.0, which would be pretty sweet. But enjoy Mangoustrine. I think he's playing Affinity in Modern, which is pretty cool. So enjoy that. Catch you next time.